Welcome to Fear and Greed Sunday Feature. I'm Michael Thompson. One of the rather unusual benefits of the pandemic lockdowns was that we had the opportunity to talk to some fascinating people who would in normal circumstances probably be on the other side of the world, roaming the planet, doing all kinds of different things. Instead, they were at home and we took the opportunity to speak with them. Today's interview is the perfect example of that. Tim Bonython has made a spectacular career out of filming big wave surfing in places like Hawaii, Portugal, Tahiti, everywhere, basically, producing some of the most famous surfing footage of all time. He also happens to be a great storyteller. Sean Aylmer spoke to him in October of 2020. It is a terrific chat. I hope you enjoy it.
Have you ever been somewhere at home, at a pub or in a shop and found yourself mesmerised by the big wave surfing on the screen? I'm not a surfer, but I find myself stopping and watching footage of incredible feats, the sheer power of nature dwarfing a human on a board riding a wave. Today's guest on Fear and Greed knows what I'm talking about because he's often the person that's taken the footage. Over the past 40 years, Tim Bonython has found and filmed the biggest waves with the best big wave surfers in the world. Some of that footage has ended up in news reports, films, music videos, and on the big screen as part of his Australian Surf Movie Festival. Even for we non-surfers, it is incredible to watch. Tim, welcome to Fear and Greed.
Thanks for having us on, Sean.
Tell us about yourself. Where are you from? How'd you get into surfing?
Well, I suppose it started from day one, kind of living right on the beach in Adelaide at a beach called Tennyson Beach. So it's a city beach, and Mum and Dad had a house right down there, literally on the back door of the house was literally on the beach. So I would just walk out that back door from day one, probably crawl down to my nappies and onto the beach, and made the beach my playground. And here I am at 60, almost 61, and basically the beach has been my playground ever since. And wherever I go, I really need to have a beach close by.
When do you think you started surfing? Can you remember when you first started surfing?
Well, in Adelaide, the surf wasn't really that prominent at the city beach we were at. So if you were going surfing, you'd really need to go down the south coast, or if later on in my career as a filmmaker, I ended up going to, well, I wasn't really a filmmaker at 12, but I ended up going to Yorke Peninsula and seeing how good it was over there, which is like 3 hours out of Adelaide. But just from the very beginning, it was just that relationship I had with the ocean. And then when Mum and Dad opened an art gallery in Paddington in Sydney, suddenly I was, needing to be close to the beach. So, as the Midnight Oil songs would go, catch the bus to Bondi.
Yeah.
And I was pretty much, needed to be down at the beach. And then suddenly I was confronted, every day that I'd go down there by surf. And so at Tennyson Beach, there was no surf. Suddenly I got a beach which has got surf. And that time I was about 12, 13 years of age, and acquired my first movie camera and ended up using that camera to document what was my favourite new sport, and that was called surfing. So, that's where it all started, really, when I was quite young.
Now, I understand you must have been about 20 or so. You went to Hawaii in 1978 with a Super 8 camera. Not a bad way to start. So what was Hawaii like then? Tell us about that.
Going back was definitely a lot more localised. So, there was the local element there. The name of the organisation on the North Shore was called the Black Shorts. And that organisation was run by a whole bunch of ruthless thugs that really didn't like tourists coming into Hawaii. But I actually friended a number of those guys, and one of those guys was a guy called Eddie Rothman, Fast Eddie. Had a pretty hard reputation and didn't take any crap from any tourists, and especially the Aussies that would rock up. So I decided that the only way that I was going to feel comfortable in this place called the Miracle 7 Mile stretch of surf at the North Shore was to actually get to know these hardcore guys, and then not focus a lot on the Australian contingent, but just the Hawaiians. And so once I started documenting the Hawaiians in Hawaii, that felt like they got the green pass to continue to do what I did without getting my gear stolen or getting beat up or, hassled. So, it was just from then, 78, like Hawaii was the only place on the planet that actually had big waves. And the beauty of Hawaii is a lot of that big wave action actually happens directly off the beach, not miles out to sea like we are now at different spots I document, actually are way out to sea. But in Hawaii, you could shoot pipeline from the beach with a reasonable sized lens and take that footage home. And of course, back in those days, there was no internet, not even VHS tapes existed back then. And so I would shoot this footage on Super 8, and I had my hundreds of Super 8 reels that I'd jam into the camera, shoot the stuff, get it processed, edit it, and then bring it back home and show at the local pub, an hour and a half of the latest surf footage from Hawaii. And that's always been my ticket, is to show footage directly after the situation. And back in those days, surf movies would take maybe 2-3 years to get made. And then by the time it'd actually get to the shores here in Australia and tour in the halls and the community centres, it'd be like almost 2.5-3 years old. But for me, it was all about shooting it, editing it, showing it. And that was my ticket to ride. And the first time I did that back in 1981 is when I really realised that this was the way of the world for me. I could live the dream, travel the world, go to the world's most exotic surf spots, and there wasn't many back then, but I could actually document these amazing spots and then show the footage, charge $5 at the door, and then get to be able to travel around the world the following season.
So back in 1981, that was the Rip Curl Pro at Bells Beach, is that right?
That's right. So what happened back then, when I realised there was an opportunity here, I was back in Adelaide. We moved back to Adelaide, I think around about 78, 79. And I decided that maybe I could make a little bit of a living out of this. So I hit up the local surf shop, Top of Taps Surf Shop, and there's a guy called Peter Victorson there, and I hassled him for some dollars to go to Sydney to shoot the 2SM Coke Surfer Bout. And at the same time, I hit him up for another $150 to go to Bells as well. and that was the very first time I went to Bells Beach in 1981. I basically ended up, with this event that was literally the biggest waves ever recorded at Bells during the Rip Curl Pro. And at the same time was the introduction of future surfing, because this guy called Simon Anson brought out a 3-fin board they called the Thruster and put that on the world stage in 15-foot, 20-foot waves, and it tore up the waves like no end. And really at that time, there was only single fin boards, or Mark Richards, who was like at the time 3-time world champion, and he actually was riding on a twin fin. So there were more fins getting on the boards, but when Simon Anderson brought out this 3-fin board and then showed the world how good he could surf, and he's a big boy and big waves, 3 fins, he just put to shame everybody else, won the event, won the 2SM Coke Surfer Bout, and then I went back to Adelaide for the very first time with a proper edited film. And then we had, like, everybody had heard about how amazing it was at Bells Beach, because back in those days, the only way you'd even see any of that footage would be on the news, because there'd be no documentary, no online. And so we decided we were going to run a show at the Victor Hotel, I think it was. Anyway, that ended up having a lineup of people miles down the road to get in to see the show, and career was born.
That kind of became your modus operandi. You'd do the filming and then you'd basically go around from place to place and show it.
That's what I've pretty much done all my life. We're just about to do that with the 14th edition of the Australian Surf Movie Festival. So basically just touring venues around, obviously it's all cinemas now, but touring big wave footage onto the big screen. And really, the idea is to really put people into the driver's seat. And from day one, people love to see big waves on the big screen. Unfortunately, we're subjected to computer screens and iPhones now, and not the big screen, but it still resonates. We've got 22 shows lined up for the Australian Surf Movie Festival, and we just sold out of our first show, and it really is where surf movies have always been made, is for the big screen. And for me, like, big waves on the big screen just looks so exciting, and I think that shows in the ticket sales we've got so far.
So how do you do it? That's the question. Aren't you scared out there?
Well, a lot of the time I'm shooting off a jet ski, and because the waves are so big, you don't really want to be swimming around, and obviously it's safer not to be swimming around. But the new place that I've been spending a lot of time at, and of course I'd love to be there right now, is Nazaré in Portugal. But because COVID is so bad in Europe right now, I've decided against going there. I could get a permit to go, because we have an apartment in Nazaré, and it is the home of the world's biggest rideable waves. Now, the only way I want to get that unique shot is shooting from a jet ski in the lineup. And I've been there for the last 6 years. And, you've got filmmakers and photographers everywhere clambering on the hills, shooting over the wave. And the wave does break directly off the hills there. It's not out to sea that far. You can see these waves. I mean, you've probably seen it yourself. This wave is just unbelievable.
Yeah, I was going to jump in there. It's Nazare for anyone who wants to see some of the greatest footage of surfing ever, because it is so close. People are standing on the hill there and the waves just monster them.
Yeah, well, this is the season to be there. So from October to March, April, and it's really only got a short history. And when I saw what was going on there just online and stuff, I thought, I really need to go and check this place out. And the moment that I saw it, I was gobsmacked. I just went, oh my God. And really it was just Hawaii for me to go to the Northern Hemisphere in winter. Obviously summer here, winter on the Northern Hemisphere. So Hawaii, you've got big waves from November to March. Well, the same thing happens at Nazare. And when I got to Nazare, knowing that this place had only a very short history, I thought this is the place for me to come to. And the beauty of that also works with my partner, Sandrine, who's French. And so that gets her close to being home with her family. And so that just thought, well, this is a great opportunity to really spend a lot of time here. And of course, I'd love to be there now, but just how bad it is in Europe right now with COVID, I think we're in the lucky country right now to be here in Australia.
Yeah. Do you ever find yourself, you said you're on a jet ski now, but have you been in some tricky situations where you've been filming and just thought, how am I going to get out of this one?
I think the one lesson I've learned in filmmaking and in just the ocean itself is the more you become part of the ocean, the more at ease you are. And the one thing that does kill people most times when it comes to the ocean in drowning is the panic level. So once you're out there and you're amongst it and you're trusting the driver, stuff can happen out to sea, and a jet ski only needs to get a lump of something inside the engine there and the jet ski will stop. Now, if you're sitting in amongst the world's heaviest waves, and the one thing about Nazare is no channel, so the wave just comes out of this canyon. The way how that wave works is the swell comes from the northwest, sort of up towards Iceland and all that, and then hits this great big gap in the ocean, like a canyon, right? So it's a big ocean canyon underwater, and it creates these waves. So if it's a 30-foot swell and it hits that canyon, the waves will actually triple in size into great big A-frames. Now, when you're sitting on jet ski in the middle of the ocean, if you haven't got a good driver, you'll die out there very easily. So you really need to trust your driver. You've got to make sure that jet ski's working. It's not going to break down at the worst possible moment. But, when these waves come in whatever angles, I've fallen off at least 5 times in the lineup out there. And luckily, I've got back onto the back of the sled, which is on the back of the ski, and got out of harm's way. But last year, I had a pretty scary moment where it was like 60-foot surf, and I fell off because the driver tried to charge over a gap in the ocean to let us out. And when we went over the back of it, he kind of leaned to the right and I leaned to the right to stop the ski from tipping, but we both leaned at the wrong angle together, and of course the ski flipped. And so there's me in the water, and I knew one thing's for sure: the way a driver will work is he'll hold onto the steering and turn the ski back around and then get that ski out. But there was another 60-foot wave coming, and luckily he got the ski out and picked me up, and I was like about 20, 30 metres away from the ski, so it was not enough time for me to swim. So he had to get the ski back mobile again, pick me up and race me out. And that's like literally seconds, and that's all in the TV series we're doing for Foxtel called Swell Chasers.
What I love about some of the footage you show, it's your interviews with the surfers themselves, because it makes it very human, and they're just normal people who are out there doing this incredible thing. But like, the swells are huge, but the actual interviews with the surfers themselves, I think, are fantastic.
Well, you've got to do that. One thing that surfers don't like is to be set up. So as soon as you set a surfer up, they clamp up. They're not professional in that space. They live to surf crazy waves, and all of us people, that don't relate to that, they are really surfers and they just live for that moment. They're not people that go on air and they're not commercialized people. So you really got to get the vox pops direct. So you can't set one up. You need to just grab them while they can. And, the old GoPro works when you can use it, or, everything's kind of set up immediately. And so you get them to release the energy and the feelings of what they've been through. And that's my job, is to be actually the logistics and to be in that exact right spot at the right time is paramount to getting the best possible shot. And the energy, that moment only might last for 5-6 seconds, literally. That moment can translate for the rest of their lives as their greatest moment in surfing. And, it's my job to get that moment, but also to get the energy and the response of winning and conquering Mother Nature in all its glory. And, I've always said that the ocean's the star, the surfers are there to enhance it. And that's what this is all about, is to get that moment and to be in the exact right position and get that glory shot and then make that person immortalized for life for what is one of the most amazing sports in sport. Like surfing and big wave surfing is just an amazing, unique sport, and it's different everywhere on the planet.
You mentioned a moment ago swell chasers. Tell me about that.
Well, that's what we are. We chase swells. When we see something on the charts, and it's a lot of communication with looking at the swell charts and talking to forecasters and making sure that what you see is going to resonate. And, when we go to, for example, Tahiti, we want to make sure that the storm is really, really powerful. You want to make sure that when the swell hits that place, that the winds are going to be the right winds, because you could have the biggest swell in the world, but if the winds are from the wrong direction, you're not going to get what you need. And so what you need to do is tick all those boxes, and then you connect with the surfers and make sure the surfers are also connecting to that moment. And we all go over together. So you document the journey, you document when you arrive, you get them getting into the water, you sit in the exact perfect spot. And that's a job, and you've got to rely on good drivers, if it's a boat or if it's in a jet ski. And then you get that glory shot, and then you get the jubilation. So, yeah, it's an incredible situation that I put myself into. And Swell Chasers is all about that. And so with the TV series with Foxtel is about my journey and connecting with these surfers and the forecasters. And it's a warts and all half-hour episodes. We've done 4 episodes for Foxtel that will be released early next year. We've gone one down at Shipsterns, another one at Nazaré in Portugal, another one an island called Mulligmore, and the final one, which was on hold to do, but with COVID it didn't allow me to travel, was here in Sydney. And there's a wave in Sydney called Cape Solander. The Bra Boys used to call it ours. They call it pound for pound one of the most dangerous waves in the world. And what Australia's famous for is these slabs. And slabs is a big slab of water that hits these reefs abruptly and creates some of the most treacherous but most beautiful barrels on the planet. And we have stacks of these amazing waves.
So where's that? Is that actually at Maroubra or somewhere like that?
Cape Solander is near sort of Cronulla, over that side of the harbour, and incredible wave. It's basically you just go over there and you can stand literally on the rocks there and look at it unload. And hopefully we're going to get swell this week, actually. You need a southeast to east swell, and you need the right winds, so southwest to northwest winds, and breaks very, very close to the coast, and one of the most amazing waves on the planet when it works.
Sounds fantastic. Look, good luck with Swell Chasers. I hope it goes well, and I look forward to watching it, because honestly I can find myself in surf shops, not being a surfer, just watching your footage. It's that good.
Well, the Big Wave Project is the movie I did a couple of years ago, and so now we're doing the Big Wave Project too, and that will also be on Foxtel. But yeah, just basically, I've had a lifetime of chasing the world's biggest waves, and there's a difference between the two ways they do it. They tow into waves. When the waves are so big, you need a jet ski to get into these waves. But the other way of doing it is paddling, and that's really, balls to the wall, paddling into these waves. And that happens a lot in Hawaii, and it's happening in Nazaré as well. So, yeah, just the whole sport's evolving very, very quickly, and it's an exciting sport to be part of, as I said. And the whole idea is now at my age, at 61, is to keep the dream alive and do it for as long as I can.
Good on you, Tim. Thanks for talking to Fear and Greed.
Thanks for having us, John.
That was Tim Bonython, filmmaker and founder of the Australian Surf Movie Festival.